All right. Hello, everybody. This is Lisa Alexander with a deeper look into domestic violence. And I am so excited to have a guest on today who is an amazing survivor and a mother. And she has a wonderful story to share with you guys. Her name is Bonnie Pavlovich. So, hey, Bonnie, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for being willing to share your story. I know, like we just talked about before we hit the record button, that there is someone who's going to be listening to this podcast, this video today, that you're going to be able to save their life. So, you ready to save some lives?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yay. Let's do this.
Awesome. Okay. And so I read your story and I was just blown away by the strength that you have. And so if you can, we'll just start with you telling us a little bit about your story. And please don't mind if I interject. I'm like, wait a minute, I might ask a question or two, because I want to kind of expound on it and let the people know what's going on. So please tell me a little bit about your story.
So I met my abuser in high school. I was 15, 16, somewhere in there. First serious relationship ever I was in. And it started out good, right? Like happy, no issues. And probably like a year into it, I didn't see at the time, which looking back, I'm like, how did I not? But there was the control, the manipulation, a lot of mind games were being played, but I didn't see it. And I had nothing to compare it to because I had no other previous relationships. I'm like, well, this is just the way it's supposed to be, I guess, you know? Because I was young when I was working, because I'd go to school, obviously full-time during the day, and then I'd work retail probably like 3 or 4 nights a week. I'd have to call like, yep, I'm on my way to work now. Yep, I'm at work now. Yep, I'm leaving work now. Sometimes he would call the work phone to make sure I was actually there.
Wow.
Sometimes he'd show up at the store and just like blend in as a customer, quote unquote. And I mistook it as him caring and making sure I was getting there on time or getting there safely, I should say. But looking back, no, that's not caring. Like that's an extreme level, right?
Right.
So I look back at my story a lot and I'm like, how did I not see it? But when you're in it, you don't see it. And it was my senior year and I wanted to go to college. I wanted to do something with actually social services, human and family child services. And I was looking at colleges and he had already graduated. He was a year ahead of me. He had no ambition to go to college. He barely passed high school, whatever. We were complete opposites. And he pretty much told me that if I went to college, we were over because he couldn't trust me to go to college.
Wow.
And then he proposed to me my senior year. And I was like, oh crap, like now what do I do? Do I stay back home and get married and have this life that I've dreamed of since I was, a younger kid about getting married, having the nice house, having the kids, or do I go to college? I stayed back because he had promised me like, oh, I'll take care of you. We'll have this house. We'll have the kids. You don't have to work. And I'm like, well, that's not entirely what I want. But I also knew deep down I wanted to be a mother. I'm like, I've always loved kids. I want to be a mom. So if that's what's going to get me this, then this is what I'll do. So I stayed back and did not go to college. And we moved in together shortly after graduating, probably like within a couple months.
Okay.
Got an apartment. He was a heavy drinker, which I knew this when we were together, as high schoolers. But I thought like, we're from a small town, like going out and having bonfires is just like the thing that you do, I guess, quote unquote. Like,
okay.
But I thought like as we got older, maybe that maturity, the drinking would slow down. Shortly before we got married, so I was 19, almost 20, somewhere in there. Shortly before we got married, we had some friends over, and I use the term friends loosely because they were not my friends. They were his friends.
Okay.
Because I guess I'll back up. I lost a lot of contact with my friends from the time I graduated till now even. I lost a lot of contact with my friends because he didn't trust me to go out with them. Like if I did go out with them, it was constant texting of, when are you coming home? What are you doing? Who are you with? I don't believe you. So then I couldn't even go out and enjoy my time because I was like, okay, now I'm fighting with you the whole time. Like, this is not even enjoyable. I guess I'll just stay home. So I shut out a lot of friends. So I lost a lot of contact with friends. But before we got married, we had his friends over, and he was drunk, as were plenty of other people. I am not a big drinker. I was 100% sober. And he started telling them intimate things about me, personal things about me, embarrassing things about me. And I was a wreck. I'm like, okay, I'm in my own place. Where do I go to escape from this?
Right. You're already in your own house. Wow.
Yeah. So I went into our spare bedroom, shut the door, and just cried my eyes out, tried to like regain my composure and be like, okay, these people will leave. It'll be fine, whatever. Well, one of his guy friends followed me in the room to see if I was okay, because he is a good guy. And he followed me. He's like, are you okay? And he kept telling me, he goes, Bonnie, he's just drunk. He doesn't mean it. I'm like, I get that, but it's not okay. And I'm so sick of that excuse now, looking back of, oh, he's just drunk.
Right.
Well, the abuser came in, my ex came in, and immediately it was, you're cheating, you're not being faithful, like all the things. And I'm like, no, I'm not. He's checking on me. Like,
oh, he thought you were cheating with the friend who came into, oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we're like, no. And his friend even said, dude, I'm just checking on her. Like, she's upset. I'm seeing what's wrong with her, you know? Well, the abuser started yelling at me. So the friend that was in there left the room, because I'm imagining it was probably an uncomfortable situation for him to be in.
Yeah.
And all of our other friends left the apartment and left me there.
While he was raging.
Yes.
Right.
Which, looking back, I can see hindsight. I'm like, yes, it was probably uncomfortable. Like, what do we do? But at the same time, I'm like, why didn't somebody interact? Like,
right.
Really?
Yeah.
So they all left, but the one that had initially came and checked on me, he stayed outside and waited till it was over, I guess you could say. And then when my abuser left, he came up, saw me sitting there up against the wall. My shirt was ripped because during the altercation, he had ripped my clothes, calling me derogatory names. And right away, the friend's like, oh my God, grabbed a blanket, threw a blanket over me, he's like, we need to, privacy purposes. He goes, and I'm calling the cops. Okay. And I begged
is that the first time he put his hands on you that night?
Yes. That's the first physical part. So probably like that was in February 2004. We were to get married May 2004. Okay. So months before our wedding day. And I begged this friend, I said, don't call the cops. I don't want any trouble. And he goes, no, I'm calling the cops. You can deal with what you want to do when the cops get here, but I'm calling the cops. He goes, for one, he hurt you. For two, he's now driving drunk. Like, he's endangering other people's lives. Like, enough is enough. So the cops did come. They found him. He did get taken in. They found him like a couple blocks down the road driving. He did get taken into custody. The state of Wisconsin automatically places a 72-hour restraining order. I don't know if other states do that, but a 72-hour restraining order. But the kicker is, since my name was not first on the lease, I had to leave the apartment so he could come back.
Okay, wow. But both of your names were on the lease.
Right, but mine wasn't first.
Wow. Okay.
So the cops were like, well, technically you're like the co-renter, so you need to leave so he can come home. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I went to my friend's house, called my mom in the middle of all this. I'm like, just so you know, cops got called. Like, this is what happened. And she had an idea that things were not the greatest between us, but she did not know. Like, and then she came to the apartment right away to help me pack some stuff. And she's like, do you want to come stay with me? And I'm like, nope, I'll go stay with a friend, because she lived in a different town. I'm like, I just want to stay in town still. So, and she told me, she goes, do not go through with this marriage. Like, it's not too late to not go through with it. And I said, the church is booked. The reception hall is booked. All our vendors are booked. Like, how much money I'd be out. And I was like, and I'd be ashamed and embarrassed to call everybody or send whatever and be like, hey, just so you know, wedding's not happening.
Yeah.
So I felt like I had to go through with the wedding.
So Bonnie, I hate to interrupt you right here, but it's so funny. Fine. Even when I was like reading your story, I was like, oh my goodness, we have so many similarities. And it's so true, because we were talking about, it's like, it's a cycle. It's nothing. Yes. I mean, yeah, everyone's level of abuse and type of abuse is all different, but a lot of them have the same MO. Like, I literally had the same conversation with my brother. Like, I don't think I'm supposed to marry. And he's like, well, you have to. You get it. Everyone's coming. It's paid for. You know? If we only knew then, right?
Exactly it. And to back up, because I skipped over this, I went to the cops and I dropped the 72-hour restraining order. Right. So I think it's important to touch on that. And the reason I did it is because I started having the emotions of, I feel alone. I can't live without this man. I can't do it. I'm not good enough for anybody else. Like, he's the only one that wants to marry me. And that's just because of all the manipulation and the verbal things that he had made me believe.
Right. But I'm so glad you went back and touched on that, because
yes,
so many times as survivors, we drop the restraining orders, but we have to understand, and this is in the beginning, this is even before you married him.
Yes.
And so it's like, there's so many different opportunities that we may have had along the way that we didn't take advantage of. Hindsight's 2020, you know, but I'm so glad that you said that, and the importance of keeping the restraining order instead of canceling it.
Yep. I canceled it. And even like my good friend that I was staying with, he said to me, he goes, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I said, "Yep, I'm positive. I can't live without him." So we did go through with the marriage. And at first, we got married May 2004. It was good, quote unquote. There was no physical stuff, but there was definitely the emotional, or the verbal. I put on an outfit and it'd be like, "You can't wear that outside. It's too risky. It's too revealing," whatever it may be.
Okay.
It didn't look good on me. Okay. Any of that controlling things. Okay. So that was still there, or escalated, I should say. Okay. The going through my phone to see who I was texting, going through my computer to see which web browsers I had previously been on.
Okay. So we're talking about controlling who you're talking to, what you're wearing, what you're doing online, in your phone. Yep. Okay. So I love that, because these are all red flags that we may see, but don't do anything about, or say, "Oh, it's not that serious." Okay.
Right. All red flags. So people listening are probably like, "Why didn't she leave?" But there's many reasons of why I didn't leave. Right. And then 2006, so 2 years into our marriage, we got pregnant, because again, I stayed back so I could be a mother. Got pregnant. Again, he was still a heavy drinker. And I had this picture in my head of, oh, we'll have this baby. He'll grow up. He'll mature. Right. He'll get his act together, quote unquote. Because we were in our young 20s. I was 21 when I had my baby. He was 22. Okay. So I'm like, okay, we'll mature here. Yeah, no. It got worse. The drinking got worse. I would get yelled at because our son was colicky. And I'd get yelled at of, "Why is he crying? Why can't you get him to stop? You're a bad mother." And I'm like, "Do you want to try?"
Yeah. He's colicky. That's the problem. Okay. So I just want to interrupt you again. But anyway, but we're having a conversation, girl talk, so it's okay.
Yes.
But it's important that when you talked about having the baby, because oftentimes you're like, "Oh, well, they'll change. Oh, they're gonna love the baby so much. We'll actually be a family now," and it doesn't make it better. It definitely doesn't make it better. It's a big misconception. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then let's see. I'm trying to think here. Again, the control was still, the manipulation, the mind games. Again, my friends, the few friends that I had left, they would message me, be like, "Hey, let's go shopping." Like, because I need to get out of the house. Okay, but you gotta take the baby with you. Okay, but that's not helping me, like, with my own mental health issues. Oh my gosh, my dogs. So I could get out of the house, but I had to take the kids with me, or the kid, one child with me at the time. And even then it was, "What are you doing? You're cheating on me." Really? I have our newborn baby with us. Like, no, I'm shopping, a lot of the controlling and the not trusting and all that was going on. And the drinking, and like I said, going through my stuff. I did not put this in my letter or my story to you. I wanted to go back to college, or go to college, I should say. And he told me no. And I went behind his back and I applied for financial aid, and I applied to get my schooling online.
Oh, good for you.
I will do my degree one way or another, right?
Yes, good for you.
So like I said, I didn't tell him ahead of time. I went behind his back and did it. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to school online, like it or not." And that was a big issue, because then he's like, "You're going to make more money than me. That's not okay." And I'm like, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because this is what I'm passionate about. Like, I want to get my degree in human services. Okay. So he was very angry about that. I'd be on the computer doing my classes. He'd barge in. "What are you doing?" "I'm working on my schooling." Like, there's nothing else I'm doing on the computer. And like I said, he'd go through the history to make sure that that's what I was doing. And then 2006, so 2 years after our first baby, I was starting to realize, like, hey, this is not a good marriage. This is not healthy. I don't like this. And I was thinking of leaving. I didn't quite have a game plan of how to leave. I didn't have anything in place. I just knew that it was on my heart that, you know what, this maybe not be the right life for me. Well, he was drunk one night because we had a work Christmas party. Well, he had a work Christmas party. He was drunk one night and we got home and he demanded to have sex and I didn't want it. I'm like, nope, you're drunk. Just pass out. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. Tried to fight and I lost that fight and got pregnant with my second child. So then I was like, I took 4 pregnancy tests because I couldn't believe that I was pregnant. I'm like, this cannot be happening right now. I'm supposed to be working on my escape to get out of here.
Right, right.
And now here I am, 23, 24, with 2 small children. Like, no one's going to want me. I have to stay.
Yeah.
So I stayed with him after I had the baby. And again, I had this thought of, okay, well, we have 2 kids. Maybe things will get better now.
Yeah.
No, it didn't. It obviously got worse. We were living in a bigger apartment because our first one, obviously, we outgrew. And it was a little subdivision that had like a bunch of other apartments. And one of my friends lived in an apartment unit 2 doors down from us, and they were having a going away party that I was helping throw. And I said, I'm like, I have to go down to so-and-so's house. They're having a going away party. And he's like, you're not going until the baby's asleep. Fine. I'll put the baby to sleep. Because my oldest, who was 2.5 at the time, was at my mother's.
Okay.
So I said, fine, I'll put the baby to sleep. Not that big of a deal. Baby was only a couple months old. Well, maybe like 6 or 7 months old. So I said, fine, I'll put the baby to sleep. Put the baby to sleep. Went to the party. Again, text messages. What are you doing there? When are you coming home? And I'm like, dude, I just left. Like, I'll be home when I get home. And he's texting me all these things about, again, derogatory names and cheating on him and all this stuff. So I said,
so at this point, there was no physical.
Nope.
After the kid, okay, so we're talking about verbal and emotional, which I think is really important because it's like you wrote, you know, it really messes with your head, the emotional and the psychological abuse.
It really does. Okay. So I came back to the apartment and he greeted me at the door and immediately he's like, you've been cheating on me. You've been there sleeping around. I'm like, you can, and I got to the point, I'm like, you can go for yourself and see what's going on. Like, if you really think that that's what I'm doing, go there because it's all females there. So you go on and go. So he did. He went and checked out the party that I was supposed to be at. Yeah, well, while he was there, he proceeded to do keg stands and get absolutely trashed.
Okay. And then
so then he came back home, and that's when things got physical. Like, he walked in the door, immediately slapped me, and he's like, there were guys there. And I'm like, well, maybe a couple, but regardless, even if there was males there, it doesn't matter. I wasn't doing anything. And I had a cell phone in my hand and he was screaming at me. And back then I had a flip phone and I went to call for help and he threw my phone across the room and it broke. So I just started yelling as loud as I could. So I'm like, okay, either someone above us or someone next to us has to hear me screaming. Someone's going to come for help. No.
Wow.
So I got pushed up against the wall. I got pushed into a chair. I'm 5 foot if I'm on a good day. He's almost 6 foot.
Wow.
So there's like, I'm helpless. And he slapped me across the face. And that's why I'm like, you know what? I'm leaving. And I walked down the hall, grabbed my sleeping child out of the crib. And he's like, where are you going? I said, I don't know, but I'm not staying here. And as I was walking down the hall, holding our child, he slapped me across the face and called me a name. And I'm like, I'm out. But I knew that I was too upset to drive. I'm like, this is not going to be safe for me to drive with my child. So I walked back to the party, which when I say this, I'm like, you know, not the best idea to take a newborn child or a baby to a party, but it was the closest place I could go that was safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you weren't thinking of going there to party with him. You were just trying to find safety. So yeah.
And one of my friends met me at the door and she's like, oh my God, like what happened? So I tell her and she's like, let's go into this bedroom. So her and I went to the bedroom. She goes, I'm calling the cops. I'm like, okay, fair enough. So she called the cops. I called my mom and the cops came. They couldn't find him. They're like, we have no idea where he is. And I'm like, I don't know. He can't call me. He broke my phone. This is the only blessing in disguise. Like, I don't know where he's at. And they ended up finding him. And again, they took him into custody for domestic violence. 72-hour restraining order got placed. I went and stayed with my mom because I was like, you know what? I have the option to stay in this apartment, but right now I don't feel safe.
Okay.
So I went and stayed with my mom. And again, I dropped the restraining order because I immediately started feeling, my mom's like, it's not too late. Like, you can get a divorce. It's not a big deal. And I'm like, nope, I come from divorced parents. He came from divorced parents. And I said, I'm not getting a divorce.
Okay.
I got married. I will stay till the end. Like, I'm not doing it.
Okay. And that's fair. So I'm going to pause you right there. You were
Yep.
divorced parents. He has divorced parents. You were like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm breaking that whole cycle.
Exactly.
No matter
Exactly.
what. Okay.
Yep.
And you talked about, again, I think this is restraining order number 2.
2. Yep.
Okay. Okay. And you dropped the restraining order again. Okay.
Yep.
Because you wanted to save your marriage. You wanted to stay married.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So we went back and immediately, I mean, it was okay for a little while, but we would have our verbal arguments of like the not trusting and stuff. And I would threaten to leave. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm leaving. Well, then he upped his game, quote unquote, and was like, if you leave, I'll kill myself.
Right.
I can't live without you. You have to stay. And I'm like, great. Now I can't leave because I feel like if he were to do something,
It'd be
that's
your
on
fault.
me.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
which
I
it's
can't
not.
live with myself.
Which it's not. And of course, it's one
absolutely.
of the lines that abusers use all the time. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill myself if you leave. Yeah.
Yep. And he was a hunter, so we had guns in the house, and I'm like,
Okay.
God, like,
Yeah.
he very well could, and I could
could.
never live with myself.
Yeah.
And looking back, I know that it would not have been my fault. That's on him and his own alcoholism and mental health issues. But in the time, like, no, I can't have that weight on my shoulders.
Yeah.
Well, we ended up being evicted from our apartments, and we had to go live with one of his family friends for a while. And we were there for about a month. And I was trying to find us a place, trying to get us back on our feet. And he was living the high life of, I have no cares in the world. And that was the bottom. I was done. I called my mom.
Okay.
He was at a doctor appointment. I called my mom and said, I can't do this anymore. And she said to me, she goes, if I'm coming to get you, you're leaving.
Okay.
Like, enough of this back and forth stuff.
Go, Mom.
Yes. Although I didn't want to hear it at the time.
Oh,
right?
yeah. You didn't want to hear it at the time, but Mom was talking the truth.
Yes.
She really was.
So he had one child with him. He had the oldest with him, who would have been about 3, somewhere in there. I messed up their ages. And I had the baby, and I said to my mom, I said, you come here. He should be home at this amount of time. We'll get the car loaded up. When he comes in, I'll grab the baby and we'll leave. So that was our game plan. And he, like clockwork, got back around when I said. I grabbed the baby out of the vehicle, put the baby in my vehicle, and I said, we're done. I'm leaving. I'm not doing this anymore.
Wow.
And I guess my oldest was about 5. That makes more sense. And in the driveway, he started yelling at me, and I was scared that he was going to do something. I'm like, you know what? I don't think he'll do anything because there's people here. Like, my mom was there, and the people we were living with was there. So he didn't physically do anything, but there was lots of words being said. And Mom's like, just get in the car. Let's go. Wow. And we drove directly to the courthouse. Wow. To get divorce papers. Because I knew, I'm like, if I wait on this, I'm not going to go through with it. Yeah. So we went.
And I think that's a good point right there too. Going with the momentum, right, that you're in that moment. Because if you go home, you think, oh, you still love him, you don't want to get divorced. All those things start coming back. He may contact you and say, I'm sorry. But so I think that was a really good point, is that you went with the momentum of the moment.
Yes, I used that anger, and I used it for the good. Like, we went, got the divorce papers, went back to my mom's, filled out the divorce papers. 2 days later, I filed for divorce. And it was a very hard process. I still had my crying moments of, what am I doing? Having the feeling that I failed. I failed as a wife. I have failed as a mother for providing a safe and happy home for my kids. Like, I felt like a failure. And that's what I'm saying. My mental health, it took a toll. It took a toll during it all, but afterwards, it really took a toll. Because
let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about the mental health aspect of it afterward. How did you think that affected you, or how did it affect you?
It affected me I went into a state of depression. I wasn't eating. Like, we would be at the table to eat, and I'd take a couple bites. Like, no, I'm not eating. And my oldest was 5, and he'd be like, Mom, why aren't you eating? And I'm like, Mom's not hungry right now. Because I didn't want to make it be a big deal. But yeah, I was not eating. And my mom would notice. She'd be like, give me the mom look of like, no, you need to eat some, right? So I'd eat a little, but then I'd just throw it away when nobody was looking. And I cried a lot. I could just be sitting there watching TV, and I would just start crying.
And is this through the divorce process or after the divorce?
During the divorce process. Our divorce process took forever.
Okay.
I left in 2011, October 2011. It did not get finalized until July of 2013.
Wow.
It was a long process. Him being the alcoholic that he is, tried many times to say that he was not an alcoholic. And during our divorce process, he got 2 DUIs, which helped my case. I'm like, nope, you have to have supervised visits with the kids. And I'll touch on that. Within like a couple months of living with my mom, I was able to get back on my feet, get an apartment, have a job, finish my schooling. And
I just love that. That's just so exciting. So I know you're probably going somewhere else with that, but I want to touch on that real quick because I think that oftentimes survivors, and I know we're speaking to survivors here because it's like you're so stuck. You don't know what to do. What about afterward? And I think I don't want to have you repeat exactly what you said, but you did everything. You worked with your mom, you found a place to live, you got a job, you went back to school. And it's like, well, I can't do that. But you did do it. And you did it with 2 little children.
Yes. And looking back, I don't know how I did it, but I did it to survive, right? Like I didn't have a choice. That's what I take that back. I did have a choice. I could not do anything about it, but I ran with it. And like when I worked, my job was only part-time, but it was something. And then I wasn't there very long. They're like, do you want full-time? Yep, I'll figure it out. Yeah. So there was lots of late nights of kids are in bed. Okay, mom's staying up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning getting her schooling done because I was determined that I wasn't going to let him take that away from me.
Oh, I love it. Hold on, Bonnie. I love it. I love it. Because I think they need to know that there's life after that. Yeah, it was hard. Yeah, you were up till 3 o'clock in the morning doing homework. Yeah, you had to get up, to change it. Whatever you had to do, you still did it. And you had a choice. You were dealing with depression. You had 2 ways that you could have taken this. You could have gone into the deep depression, or you could have fought it and did what you did, and you fought it.
Yes. During the divorce, he could see the kids on Saturdays and Sundays from 10 to 6 only. And I want to touch base on my mental health during that time that he had the kids. I was lost. I was legit lost. And my friends were like, just enjoy your time. And my friends are a little bit younger. They didn't have kids, first of all. And second of all, they didn't go through the marriage. They didn't go through what I've been through. I'm like, I can't enjoy my time. I don't know who I am outside of being a mother. Like, what am I supposed to do when my kids are gone? So again, when they weren't home, I wasn't eating. So I lost a lot of weight to the point that my mom got a little concerned about. She's like, you're too skinny. And here I'm thinking, no, I look great. Like, because I felt like I had to be skinny, quote unquote, for someone to be attracted to me. Because all the things that he had made me feel of, no one's going to want you. Because during the divorce too, he would send me messages. No one's going to want you. You can't do this on your own. You're not
getting into your head. It's crazy.
Yes. So he got into my head. So I did this not eating thing, got super skinny. And I'm like, someone's going to want me.
Now, look how skinny I am.
Yeah, it didn't matter. But that was the things that I thought, right? And even during the divorce, after the divorce, I let him get into my head. And that's where I say the depression and the mental health, it took a toll. And I was too stubborn, I guess you could say, to go to therapy and realize hey, I need help. Because I was like, nope, I'll figure it out on my own. Now I'm in therapy. I love my therapist.
So I have a question. Would you advise people to go to therapy earlier?
Yes. I would advise people to go to therapy when they're thinking about leaving. Because that therapist can help you with getting a safety plan, getting a game plan, help you, and also help with the mental health because when you're going through that, you think it's your fault. And the therapist can help you realize it's not on you. You did nothing wrong to deserve this. Sure, he got mad. You didn't make him mad. You didn't make him yell at you. Exactly. So I think it's important. The therapist can it's still going to be hard to leave, right? It's still going to be hard to deal with it. But I think the therapist can definitely help not get you. I mean, you're still going to be a little bit depressed, but maybe not as bad if you have that person to talk to that's not family either, someone that's not biased and can help you. So yes, I totally advocate for therapy 100% of the way.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So what happened after that?
Where was I?
Where were we? So he got custody. He was able to have visitation with the children.
Yes. That's where we were. So, and our exchanges, thankfully I had a good lawyer who said the exchanges need to be either A, at a police station, or 2, at the gas station, public places where there are cameras. I didn't want the police station because I said, I don't want the kids to think that they have to go to a police station to exchange. I just thought that was going to be trauma for them. Little did I know that they've already been through the trauma of being with a divorced parent, you know, abusive marriage. So we exchanged at the police station. And even though we were in a safe place, I was still walking on eggshells every time we exchanged. Because I was like, what if I say the wrong thing? What if he says something to me? Like, so our exchanges were very uncomfortable, uneasy. I wanted to throw up every time I had to see him. But
I just feel like there's got to be a better way to do that. I hear that all the time. When there's domestic violence involved, there's got to be a better way to exchange children, because it doesn't stop just because the courts you're separated or divorced. It doesn't stop the abuse. Yeah.
Right. And I had advocated, I'm like, is there a third party that we can do it? Like, I'll give that person. And the court's like, no, we're not to that point.
Wow. Okay.
What point do we have to get to? I don't want to know.
Yeah. Wow. I'm blown away by that one. Okay.
I was lucky that they did let me waive when we were going through the divorce process. They usually want you to go through mediation to see if, like, you can figure out the custody agreement on your own, whatever. I was able to waive that. They said, nope, they are not having to do that. We are not making her do that. So I was very thankful that they're like, you went through domestic abuse. We're not putting you in a room. Nope.
Yeah, like, that was
you
great.
guys can do it in the so I was very thankful for that, because I was like, oh my God, now I have to go to mediation with this man. Like, it's not gonna work. And during the court process, like I said, it lasted almost 2 years. Almost every time we were in there, the courts put him on absolute sobriety because of his drinking, and he tried to turn it on me. Well, if I can't drink, she can't drink. What? And the judge went, wait, does she get unruly when she's drinking? Does she have
any DUIs?
Does she have DUIs? Has she hurt anybody? And he's like, yes, no, she hasn't. But if she can't go out, then I can't go out. And the judge looked at him and said, and remind you, he only saw the kids during the day. So I never had nights without my kids unless they went to my mom's. The judge flat out told him, she is allowed to go out. She has your kids 365 days a year.
Right.
She is allowed. So I was happy for that. I was like,
it's just amazing. You're still trying to control everything. You're still trying to control everything.
That control was still there. That's what all through the divorce. And then we got divorced finally. And during the divorce, was it during the divorce or shortly after? We actually got ordered, because he was sending me harassing text messages all the time about me not being a good mother, that I wasn't taking care of our kids. You name it, I was whatever. The courts finally said, you know what? Nope. You are not allowed to call and text her. You have to use the program Our Family Wizard, which it costs $100 a year, I think. But the courts and our guardian ad litem can read any messages that are taking place. Okay. So if he sent me anything, I could say to the judge, hey, check out such and such date. Right. Because even if he deleted it on his end, it was still there. Like, there was no deleting.
Well, that's good. Yes, I like that.
So that was good to have that we had that. Even then, he would still send me messages trying to, like, pick a fight, but I would never feed into it. Because I was like, nope, unless this, and my response was, unless you have to talk to me about the kids, I will not respond to you. I'm not feeding into this.
Wow. So how long did you do that for My Family Wizard?
2013 till 2019 of this year, when his rights got terminated.
So, wow. Tell me about his rights being terminated. Because when I read that, I'm like, I hear from women all the time, I wish that I could just terminate his rights, or they never, they make us have 50-50. Like, so,
yes.
So how was that? How did you come to it?
He was ordered 50-50. Shortly after divorce, it was in our divorce agreement that if he was sober for 6 months, that he could start having the kids unsupervised. Well, he got sober for 6 months. We started having the kids go over and spend overnights, and it was longer than 6 months, so I made him wait probably a year or two. And it was shortly after the boys started spending the nights there that in December of 2015, I was walking into work and I got a message from my friend that says, you need to call me as soon as possible. And I'm like, okay. So I just sent her a text. I'm like, hey, I'm walking into work. Like, what do you need? And she said, I got some messages last night from your ex that are very concerning, and I don't know what to do with them. And I said, okay, just send them to me. Like, I don't have time for this, right? I said, send them to me. She sent them to me, and it was a winter day in Wisconsin. I will never forget this day. Walking in, and I got the messages, and I froze in the parking lot. There were messages about sexual things that he wants to do to our children. Oh. Fantasies that he has around our children.
He sent them to your friend?
Yes.
Oh my God.
He was drunk.
Oh.
So I froze in the parking lot. Another coworker came up to me, and at that time I was working at a school. She came up to me and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I froze. I said, "I don't know." And I handed her my phone, and she's like, "Bonnie, A, as a mother, B, as an employee of the school," she's like, "You are a state mandated reporter. You have to report this to CPS." So we went in, and her and another coworker sat with me while I called CPS. I do not know to this day how the CPS worker got a word of what I was saying, because I was crying hysterically the whole time.
Oh my goodness.
So an investigation was open. He was supposed to have the kids that weekend, and the CPS said, "Do not let him take those kids. Like, we are filing an emergency order. Do not let him." And I said, "He's going to freak." And she goes, "You call the cops if he shows up demanding your kids, but you do not let him go with those kids. You don't do it." They're like, "We will try to get this paperwork in and to him before his visitation," which they did. And he did. He flipped out. I got messages on the Our Family Wizard of, "I'm a terrible person. Why would I take his kids away from him? If he can't have his kids, then he's better off dead." All back to that stuff.
Wow.
And the CPS workers, they had to interview the boys. And, oh God, this was, like I said, back in 2015, and they are now 11 and 13. So they were like, 8 and something. They were younger. The boys said, no, nothing happened, thankfully.
Yes.
But the courts were still like, no, like, you have an alcohol addiction. There's got to be some sex addiction going on. Like, there's other things going on. So they ordered him to not see the boys at all. No contact.
Wow.
Until he did XYZ. And we were having to go back to the courts every 6 weeks. I felt like it was my second home, and I should have just got a job there. Mm-hmm. Because they wanted to monitor to say, "Hey, are you doing this? Are you doing this?" And at that time, it was all before the juvenile courts because of CPS stepping in. And after a year with CPS, they said to the juvenile courts, "This needs to go to family court. We're done. We've offered him free therapy, free resources to get help. He's not doing it."
Okay.
So it got transferred over to the family courts. Yes. Mm-hmm. And they, again, put these conditions on him. And in December of 2017, the judge said to me, "This has been going on for 2 years. Enough is enough. We're not doing this coming back every 6 weeks to see if you're making progress. You have 1 year to get your act together, prove to me that you've gone to rehab, got your sex addiction therapy, did everything else that he was supposed to be doing." They're like, "You file it, you do it in a year, you come back with hard evidence that you're sober, that you're in a good place, and then we'll reconvene." He goes, "However, if you do not do it within a year, that's abandonment. She can file for termination." And I was like, hallelujah.
Uh-huh. And that's how you got it.
And that's how I got it, because but even then, so the December 2018 came, and I have a boyfriend. We've been together for 3 years. And I said to him, I said, "Do I do this? Like, we've hit the year mark." And he said, he goes, "We need to sit down with the boys, because this is a huge decision to make." And I was not going to make a decision without taking them into consideration. So we did sit down with them, because they knew, hi dog, they knew some of the stuff going on. They knew Dad, like, we had to sit down and tell him, like, "You can't see your dad. Dad is an alcoholic. Dad has alcoholism." And they've gone through programs with school. So we talked about how it's a disease. Dad's not healthy. It's not healthy for you guys to be around him. So we were very open about it as far as that goes. So we sat down and told him, I'm like, "Dad's had a year to get healthy and get better, and he hasn't done it. This is what Mom can do." And I said to him, I said, "I don't want an answer right now. I want you guys to think on it." Because right away they're like, "Yeah, do it. He doesn't deserve us." And I'm like,
wow.
Whoa.
Wow. Powerful statements for some little guys.
Exactly.
They have feelings too. They do.
Yes. So I still I let it go for like a month. And then I finally said to him, I said, "All right, guys, how we talked about this." And they're like, "Did you do it yet?" And I said, "No, I was waiting for you guys, And they said, "Mom, go and do it." So I went to the courthouse, got all my stuff in order, and went before the judge. And the judge, I know she's doing her job, and I know, like, she has to look out in all aspects of things. But she said to me, she goes, "I'm just telling you right now, we don't award termination. We don't terminate when it's a single parent. You're not married." And I said, "Okay, but it's not safe. Like, he's been out of the picture for a couple of years now. It'd be worse for him to come into the picture now." Mm-hmm. And there was a guardian ad litem that was appointed, and he said, he goes, I forgot how long he goes, but I've been doing this for years. He goes, only one other time have I seen this be awarded. He goes, and I firmly believe I can get this awarded for you.
Wow.
He goes, I am flat out shocked that it was not done sooner.
So then, it's okay. So in January 2019, you said that you filed.
I went and filed. Yep.
Wow.
And the guardian ad litem tried contacting him many times. He never called the guardian ad litem back.
Okay.
We went back before the courts again, just the judge, and she goes, we need to give him a fair chance to come, and hear his story. And I'm like, okay, if he shows up, right? And she goes, and we need a game plan. And the guardian ad litem says, this woman has been doing this on her own for a long time. She knows her stuff. She knows her rights. She knows everything. And I said, I will write up a will if I have to, of what would happen to my kids if, God forbid, something happens to me. And she goes, you would do that? I said, if it means getting his rights terminated, yes, at 34, I will write up a will. I have no problem with that. So she said, okay, we'll wait to see if he comes to the next hearing, but I want proof of your will. I said, fine. So I went home, called my best friend that's been friends with me for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, I have a question for you and your husband. If anything were to happen to me, would you take the boys? And I said the same thing to her. I said, don't answer. Talk it over with your husband. Get back to me. She goes, Bonnie, we don't even have to think about it. The answer is yes.
Wow.
She goes, in a heartbeat, we would take those kids.
Wow.
So I'm
you took it back to the courts and they accepted it.
Yeah, we had another court hearing to see if he would show up, and he did not show up. And the judge said, okay. The judge goes, okay, we've been here 3 times. Yeah. He has not come at all. The guardian ad litem goes, he has not even contacted me. He goes, and I gave permission to the guardian ad litem to talk to the boys' therapist because they too are in therapy.
Okay, good. How long have they been in therapy?
Oh my gosh. The oldest one has been in therapy since shortly after I left, probably 2012. He was having a lot of behavioral issues in school. And then in 2015, I started my youngest one because we wanted to see if anything, God forbid, had happened. And then with the abandonment of not seeing his father, we've all been in therapy for a couple of years now. And the therapist said, absolutely not. He cannot have contact with these kids. It would be worse for them. Okay. So the judge took the guardian ad litem's statement and said, okay, we will award. And she let me be known, this is a rare instance for me to award it when you are not married. I'm like, well, I appreciate that. And that was it got finalized February 2019. Yes. February 28th, last day of February.
Wow.
And March is when I decided to start speaking because I said, you know what? I can finally move on.
Yeah.
It's all over.
You're big free.
It's all over.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. Wow. That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I mean, that is amazing.
Thank you. It feels good. Hi.
So I know that you wanted to talk a little bit about the manipulation and the isolation that happened. Because I know that you said in the beginning some stuff was happening that you didn't really pay a lot of attention to. So what would you tell someone who's in an abusive relationship right now and they're seeing things, he's showing up at their job, he's calling, telling them what to wear and stuff like that, but they're just thinking it's nothing big?
Don't underestimate the power that they have. It may start little and you may not think that it's big, but it's going to escalate worse. So just don't underestimate it and get out. I say get out like it's easy, but it's not. I know it's not.
But that's what they need to do is get out. And another thing you said, he accused you of cheating a lot, which is so interesting because obviously it's one of the MOs of abusers. And it's so interesting they use cheating all the time. It's their own personal insecurities that cause them to say these things constantly all the time. So what would you say? What would you say if someone's hearing those exact words that you were?
Know that it's not you. It's not you. That's the most important thing I can say is it's not you and you don't deserve it.
When you said earlier about how I felt that when you talked about how you didn't like to have your kids go spend time with him because it's you were at that time, especially when it was new, it was just so your life was as a mother. And so these kids are like, oh my goodness, are you kidding? The kids are gone. Let's go out and party and have a good time. It's no, I love my kids. I want to be with my kids,
Right.
And so I know that a lot of women struggle with that whole idea is, you don't get married to get divorced. You don't have children
Right.
to have to send them for Christmas and Thanksgiving and all these holidays. And so it's difficult. And I'm really
Yes.
glad, Bonnie, that you shared that. I wanted to touch on this too. You shared that you were diagnosed with PTSD.
Oh,
You wanted to
yes.
talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So I've been with my therapist for a year now. Important to note, I've been through a lot of therapists because after the divorce, I started to go and then I'm like, nope, I don't like her. And I started coming up with reasons of why I didn't like the person.
Okay.
Or I came up with excuses of why I couldn't go. No, I'm not feeling well. No, the weather is not good. And I was just not in the right mind frame to be in therapy at that moment is what I chalk it up to now. But I also think it's important to know that if you don't have that connection, it's okay. Find a different therapist. Like you're not going to always have that good connection.
Oh, that right there. Yes.
So
yes,
I
you were making excuses, but you don't have to like every therapist. Get another one. Like it's okay. You don't have a connection with everyone. I love that. That was good.
So the therapist I'm with now, I've been with for a year, 2 years. I can't even remember. And she said, we were talking about some stuff and she's like, Bonnie, you have PTSD. And I said, what do you mean I have PTSD? Because to me, I think of our soldiers. I'm like, they have PTSD. Cancer patients have PTSD because they've been through trauma. I'm like, I haven't been through trauma. She goes, what do you call it then if you haven't been through trauma? And I'm like,
wow.
Oh, well, I don't really know. But so I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years now, and a year into our relationship, we started having problems, but nothing on his end. It's all on me. I had very much high insecurities of like, you're going to go cheat on me. I'm not good enough for you. You don't want me with 2 kids, right? And I sucked at communication because with my ex, whenever I communicate, I didn't know how you'd react.
Yeah.
So in my current relationship,
communication in domestic violence relationships. Yeah.
So it really transferred over into my current relationship, and she helped me realize, she goes, this is your PTSD. This is your trauma affecting your current relationship. Like you can have a great relationship, but you got to communicate. Like he's never done anything to show to you that he's going to hurt you. Like you're in a safe place.
Yeah.
So that's the PTSD is like, yeah. And there are times that I still like, he'll say to me, he's like, I'm not your ex. Stop treating me like I'm your ex. And I'm like, oh yeah, I hate those words, but it's what I need to hear at the moment. I'm like, okay, snap out of it. This isn't my ex in front of me. Yeah. So yes,
and
PTSD is real.
I'm so glad that you said that because we want people to know that, hey, there's life after, there's relationships after, but there's also you after because you're taking that person with you. And so it's so important that you get your therapy, get your healing process and even if you do, you're going to go into a relationship and you're still going to have some issues. He's like, time out, I'm not your ex. Wait a minute.
Right.
And I think that's really important that you really focus on you. So 2 more questions I have before we go. Yeah. How important is it that you found that your boys are in therapy? How important has that been for them?
Game changer. It's a game changer. My oldest, this is a short story, all through elementary school, he had an IEP. We were not in a good place, right? We moved, got a place, in a whole different town, whatnot, and he no longer has an IEP and has no behavioral issues in school. And I chalk that up to a lot of things, like we're not in a toxic environment, but he also knows that every 2 weeks he can go to therapy. And I've told my boys, you go in there, what you say is between you and your therapist. I don't need to know. Unless there's like a crisis going on that I have to be alert. That's their safe place. Like that's where they don't.
So one, they're not in a toxic environment anymore.
Right.
Because we think just because they may not see it or hear it, they don't know it. They absolutely do.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And number 2, you've given them the freedom to be with their therapist and not have to, you're not, micromanaging that. You've given them the freedom to share.
And they go every 2 weeks. And my oldest is 13. He'll say to me, Mom, when do we have therapy? And I'm like, next week. Why? Like, but he knows like I need to go in. That's good. So it's been it's been huge.
And I think they're learning from your example too, because you're also going and realizing that it's really good for you. So I love that. So last but not least, Bonnie, thank you so much for sharing with us. But I want to touch on why you decided to stand up, and stand up as a survivor and share your story and speak up. And why is it so important to you?
When I was going through it, I felt like I was the only one that's ever been in this relationship that's been through the abuse. I didn't have people saying, hey, I've been there. You can get through it. Sure, I had like my mom saying, you're fine. Like better life is ahead of you. But I wasn't hearing people's stories of like, hey, this is what can happen after you leave. You can still be successful. You can still do all these great things. So I think it's important for me to give women the hope that, hey, yes, you're in this bad spot, but look where you can go. Yeah. Your life is not over. there is life after divorce. There is life after abuse. Like,
Yes.
and I go to teens and I talk to teens because I don't want them to even find themselves in this situation. Like, let them know of these red flags of, hey, if you're in this relationship, these are red flags. So that's why I'm like, I want women to be educated and just know that they're not alone, more importantly.
Yes, I love it. Yay, thank you so much, Bonnie. You're awesome. You're so strong.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being so transparent and honest. I know that there are women that are going to listen to this and you're going to be able to change their life. And they're going to say, because of you, because I left because of you. Now I know my children will be okay because of you. I'm going to start therapy because of you. You know, I'm okay to walk away and get divorced because of you. All of that. And I think even when you talked about the emotional and psychological abuse that, you know, we think, oh, well, they only hit you one time or it didn't happen every day or there were some good days and some bad days. Then emotional and psychological abuse can be so damaging.
Absolutely.
And you really talked about how there was just chunks of years of just that and how damaging it was. And it was enough to make you want to leave. So thank you. Can you please tell us where we can follow you on social media, please?
Absolutely. I have a Facebook page. It's Bonnie May, Domestic Violence Survivor and Speaker. And then Instagram is Bonnie May 0908. I post inspirational posts. I post statistics. Anything around domestic abuse, I share my story. Everything's out there for that.
So it's at BONNIEMAE?
Yep.
Okay. MAE. Thank you, Bonnie.
Yes.
Any last words? Anything else you want to share?
No, I'm just so excited that you allowed this. You know, you have a good platform here. So
awesome. I'm so excited. Thank you. We appreciate you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Bonnie. Take care. See ya.
Bye.